everyone, welcome back. So, I just saw Logan again. I have to talk full spoilers about this movie. I walked out of this movie as like I have to fully discuss this movie. I can't just review it. So here we go. First of all, I gotta start with the fact that both Professor X and Logan are just sick, dying men. I loved that. It brought so much humanity to these characters that we kind of think are pretty much invincible. And I loved the fact that they did that. Uh, this Wolverine was just needed. The the violence, which I'll talk a little more later, and the swearing and all that. It just we needed an R-rated Logan Wolverine. It was needed. Again, I loved just the fact that these guys were old, and I think that's why the language really worked for this because they were just old, grumpy farts, and that's why I think the humor worked so much for this movie. Is the fact that they're just old freaking farts. I've seen some of these guys sitting on their front porches just complaining at kids, and that's what I love. And like the scene, for example, where Logan's asking Professor X how long it's been since he's took his medicine, and Professor X is like 2 days, and then he tells Professor X to take more medicine, and he's like, I want to see it, and Professor X is like, that was just pure genius, and it was just old man humor, and that's what I really, really loved about that. Uh, like I said before, I think the violence was necessary for this movie. Wolverine is just a character that needs to get bloody. He needs to rip off heads. He needs to slice them through. It was needed. It worked. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't too much. It was just the perfect amount of violence. It worked for the character, and I loved that. Uh, I loved the way they explained the death of the X-Men. They didn't full out say that Professor X did it. They didn't show us a flashback scene. We saw at the beginning of the farm scene where he was Logan, I killed them, blah 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 blah, and then we also heard on the radio that there was this big accident back where the X Men mansion was, and tons of people were injured, and some X Men were killed, and that was just perfect in my opinion. I love that this was such a smaller story. Again, like I said in my review, we have so many superhero movies now that there's a big portal in the sky and the world's being sucked up into it and the aliens are coming out. This was so simple. We need to get someone from point A to point B. That was it. That was it. And they're being chased. I mean, it's so simple and it doesn't need to always be this big thing. Big things are fun. I love comic book movies when they are big things. They are fun, but I also love seeing that smaller story, and I loved the fact that they had the balls to do that. It was just amazing. I again, I even after watching this again, both Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart should be nominated for Oscars for this. I mean, the year is still fresh. We are in March, so I almost don't think it's going to happen. But their performances were just fantastic. And Patrick Stewart in the farm scene when he's just waking up and right before he's killed, that little moment he gave where I had the best day of my life and I don't deserve it was brilliant. And Hugh Jackman just gave such a weird performance. He was just the 1 minute he's killing people up the wazoo, and then the next he's just tortured and just like he wants to die. And that's what I really like about this character. And that's why I like Batman too. They just want to die. They do this because they almost want to just get killed. And I love that about it. I love the fact that it's just awesome. I love the performances. I really do, and I just do think they should be nominated at this point. And like Hugh Jackman's been nominated for Les Miserables. I think this was better than Les Miserables. He showed so much pain and torture and suffering in this that they're amazing. They're just amazing. The script for this movie was beautifully written. I love the X-23, X-24 bits. I know that Hugh Jackman said in an interview, actually, that James Mangold suggested X-23. And he was a little worried about that. He was kind of scared about it, which he should have been, because it is a scary idea to have a little girl in this movie, and especially the way she is. And I really love that about her. She didn't talk a lot. A lot of her performance is through her face, through her eyes, through her emotions, and that is something scary with kids because that's hard for a grown actor to do. And the fact that they had the balls to do that again is it's just nuts. And she has a lot of action. She's cutting off heads. that scene at first when they're at the, I don't know, wherever they started at the beginning where they were living, and she comes out of there, you hear the gunshots, and ah! And she comes out bringing that flipping head and just rolls it by their feet. Oh my gosh, it was just amazing. Just, I loved that. I loved it so much. And also, just, there's other little, just little pieces of dialogue that were fantastic. Like when they explain X-23 and how she's a, well, female, so she has the claws that come out of her feet. It's better for protection of herself and all that. Just little things like that were just amazing. Uh, when the kids popped up at the end, I was a little worried, just because, man, kid actors can just be something that is not good for a movie. Lately, we have just had a resurgence of kid actors, and they're all amazing. I talked about, I think the last one I really talked about was Lion, and there's all the kid actors in the movie just do a phenomenal job, and it's just so great to see that. And where they went with that, that was kind of my negative a little bit. Is I kind of felt like we spent a little too much time with them, and I also, looking at it again, I kind of spent a little bit too much time with the road trip part with just Logan and X-23. I think we could have just sped it up a little bit, and but it worked. It really did. It really worked. I love that they had the comic book movies in here, the comic books in here. I thought that was going to be a little bit out of place, I guess. No, they did a really good job of kind of just explaining, oh, this is kind of like this fairy tale that it's just really cool how they did it, and the whole destination of the place in the comics, how it's not real, but it kind of was because it's the safe place we're all gonna meet. I thought that was just awesome. Uh, I gotta talk about that casino scene when Professor X is having those seizures and everyone's just stopped, and Logan's got his claws out and he's just trying to get over to them, and then you see the one guy and he's all like, oh crap, he's gonna kill me, I'm dead. Just awesome. And then he just stabs everybody in the flipping head, and then he puts the shot in him, and everyone just falls down dead. Just brilliant. Oh my gosh, that's one of the just. I love that scene so much. Uh, I another. It's not a negative for me, but something I would have liked, and I couldn't say this in my non-spoiler review just because it didn't. It would have spoiled it. The fact that I would have liked to have felt a little bit more with the deaths. I kind of felt like Professor X just kind of went and was gone, and I didn't feel anything for it. And I even thought, with the burial of him, even, I wasn't sure at first if Logan was finishing burying him or was digging the hole for him. And when X-23 comes over and stands by him, I was like, okay, so they just buried him. So I would have liked a little bit more with that. It didn't really get me. The end, where Logan dies, and all that fun stuff, that got me a little bit more. I didn't quite cry, but I was getting choked up in that bit. Uh, the fights with X-24 were just awesome. It was amazing. I love that he wasn't used a lot. It's essentially 2 5-minute scenes, maybe. And just seeing old man Logan versus young Logan was just, oh, wow. Wow, 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 wow. And you could just, X-24 is just like, and just healing back up, and Logan's just like, oh my god, I can't take much more of this. Those scenes were brilliant. It When watching the trailer, I thought Logan for sure was going to kill Professor X, and I'm glad I was wrong about that. Personally, I thought that, Professor X has some kind of one of these weird fits, and Logan was going to have to take him out. I almost kind of wish we could have had a little bit, because it would have been a little more heartfelt, but just the way that, that we see Professor X saying, oh my gosh, I had the best day of my life, and all that fun stuff, and then we just see this X-24 just killing him, and then Logan coming up and saying, it wasn't me, Charles, it wasn't me. And the way he died, did he know that it wasn't actually Logan who killed him? That was awesome. That was just awesome. I loved that. Now, I have to talk about the trailer, because I loved the trailers that we saw for this, but I wish we had not seen a scene where Logan and X-23 were standing there with a shovel, looking exhausted and bloody, because you just knew that that was Professor X's grave. And that's when I was like, okay, I think Logan killed it. We heard in the trailer, he's all like, Logan, what did did you do? And I just wish that wasn't in the trailer. It kind of ruined it for me. I thought the deaths, again, were just beautifully done for the most part. With like a little more in the gut for me, but it was awesome. I love that they used the reference of Shane, the movie, that they show it in the movie, actually. They have the little clip from it that they're watching, Professor X and X-23 are watching, and then at the end, how X-23 says it at the grave of Logan, just fantastic. And then the cross, where she takes the cross and turns it to an X, just beautiful. And it worked so much for that. Just the fact that Logan wasn't a religious person. He was an X-Men. That was what he had. That was his family. And oh my God, Logan's dying words when he's all like, "Don't be what they want you to be," or I forget what they made you to be, whatever it was. Loved that. I loved the fact that his last words were, "So this is what this feels like. That feels like," or something like that. I forget exactly how it goes. And I mean, that's not only, that doesn't have to only be for like, "Oh my God, I'm dying." I think that's also the fact that, oh my gosh, I love this little girl. This is my family. I feel part of something. I think that was part of it. I think the fact that, the fact that he did something really, really good by helping these kids get to freedom, the fact, just everything about that line is just fantastic because it can be interpreted so many different ways for what he's feeling and stuff. The big thing I have to say about this movie is the fact that when The Dark Knight came out, that is a brilliant movie and everyone loved it. Why? Because if you take out Batman, you take out Joker, put in a cop and a mob boss, it is essentially the same movie. It's a comic book movie, but it doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It feels like a cop drama that just so happens to have Batman, Two-Face, and Joker in it. And that's what I really loved about it. Logan is also the same thing. It's the fact that you take Logan out, put in a different actor, instead of claws, we use guns. It's essentially the same movie. You'd have to switch up a few scenes and stuff like that. But this movie is not a comic book movie necessarily. It is a movie. It is a Western science fiction drama with even elements of horror because, oh my God, I didn't talk about the stinking farm scene. When that happened, oh my gosh. First of all, it started with the scene I've talked about like 3 times now, where we see Professor X, "Oh my God, I killed everyone." And then we see the claw go through, and then they kill the son. And then I was like, okay, they killed the son, wow. And they kill the mom. I was like, okay, you're not going to kill his entire family, are they? They kill the father too. And I love that he had the final moment where he ran over X-24. Or didn't run him over, he ran him into I don't know what he ran him in. He put him and shot his face off. And then it looked like he was about to kill Logan, but the gun was empty. And then wow, that scene, that was just like a horror scene right there. And I love that they have so many elements in this movie, and it doesn't feel like a comic book movie. It feels like a movie, and that's the best thing I can say about this movie. For me, Dark Knight is still up here a little bit more. Logan's right down there, but I love this movie. It is probably my top 5 best comic book movies of all time now. It is just a brilliant piece of work, brilliant movie, brilliant performances. Yeah, guys, that about does it. Again, I have to thank Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. They're never going to see this, but I don't care. I have to thank them for the fact that they played these roles for so long and they cared about them so much. I can tell that Hugh Jackman loves this character, not just outside when he talks about him in the real world, but in this movie I can tell when he's just playing him. He loves this character. He loves everything about this character, and he wanted to get it right, and I love that. I thank you so much for that, Hugh Jackman. Patrick Stewart as well. Thank you so much for playing Professor X, for just bringing this character to life, and your performance in Logan is just brilliant, both of you. Thank you so much. Well, guys, that's about it for my spoiler review here. If you like this, comment down below, hit like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. We'll see you soon.